It's Chuck from Above the Basement, Boston Music and Conversation. In this day and age, we all seem to crave the connection to others that seems to be missing in this environment of screens and social media. Will Dailey wants to break down that wall. And if you don't want to climb over the remaining pieces, well, he is okay with that. With his latest album, Golden Walker, Will wants you to turn off those distractions, to drop the needle on the album and listen. We loathe to place Will into a nice box by calling him a singer-songwriter because somehow it is not quite so simple. What we can say about him is that he is a very thoughtful guy, and we really enjoyed spending time with him to talk about that missing connection, being an indie artist, and having no regrets. So here's our conversation with Will Dailey, recorded at Woods Hill Table in Concord, Massachusetts. You're from Boston, right?
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Nassau. I was born in Malden.
In Malden. Okay.
And lived in Malden, Arlington, Andover, Melrose.
Did you ever come to Concord at all?
No. I actually thought Paul Revere rode from Lexington to Concord, New Hampshire until I was an adult.
Actually, I don't think he ever actually made it to Concord.
No, he didn't.
He was too drunk.
It's one of those stories where you realize
it
he had a better ring to his name and did more publicity afterwards.
Yeah. Right. Although, the Paul Revere House in the North End, it's right next to
a great bar.
No, a house. It's called the Clow House. Is that the Clow or Clough?
Clown?
No, shut up. And there were printers back in the colonial days, and it's a historical house. You can go in there, and there's a guy there, and like historical.
I went to the Paul Revere House.
Yeah, so right next to it is the Clough House. It's but it's pronounced. It's spelled the same way.
His last name. That's why he's all excited about it.
You should get free mins.
I should get something free, right?
You know the Clow means valley.
You making that up?
You told me that.
Daily means every day.
Every day?
Yeah. So.
Daily.
Yeah. What does Hirschberg mean?
Deer Mountain.
Deer Mountain. That's right.
Hirsch is German deer, and Berg is mountain. Every day, Deer Mountain name? Valley. Landy.
Maria is a Berkeley student. She's a rising junior.
Rising junior. What's your major?
Songwriting.
Who do you have for songwriting?
Like Scarlet Keys, Susan Catanium, Bonnie Hayes, Kara, Marty.
You just named two of some of our former guests.
I just did a lecture with Bonnie Hayes for the summer program. Yeah, just like sat on stage with Musa Farrick and her. And
cool.
Yeah, talked about songwriting.
Bonnie's got some great history,
awesome.
And I love her attitude and what she brings to the stage too. She's done some great emceeing.
Yeah,
and then she just shared a post that I did of that cat.
Yes, I saw that.
It's a picture of this graffiti of this black cat, and there's a little black cat sitting on the ground, and it said, the ancient murals foretold the coming of the cat. It was a little stupid meme, but it was funny.
I didn't understand it at all.
It was fun. Well, you're not very bright, but it was funny enough that Bonnie shared it, and that made me feel good.
When you connect
that's my life
someone
like
in entertainment, in songwriting and music, and then they really don't connect with you in your day job, but you connect on a cat.
Yeah, well, I'll take any kind of connection I can get, Will.
You actually have to do that these days.
You do. I know you're big on connecting.
Yeah.
I do. I know that. I'm not just saying that.
Yeah.
I thought the Golden Walker story, I think it's great that you put that on your site itself, because how do you have the opportunity for others to know that? And you can tell it in a song, you could do it in an interview, but I liked reading it.
There's not much justification for making an album anymore.
Right.
It's expensive to do right.
Someone just told us this. I can't remember who it was, but yeah.
So you should really have a reason, and I don't lament that making an album is more difficult than it was 20 years ago or something like that, but it's an opportunity, it's an art form, and it started as an art form and then turned into the marketing form. The marketing form is completely exhausted, so it's back to being an art form.
Yeah, I agree.
Back to being an art form.
Yeah.
So the marketing machine took control of many songwriters' lives over many years, and we're probably seeing the pendulum come back.
Yeah, I don't know if the pendulum comes back, actually. I think the pendulum just keeps going on. It's just a knife that cuts through space, but the way we might think about music and we think about it nostalgically is it's healthy to take a step back from it. Recorded music is about 100 years old, but music has been around for thousands of years. People have had intense feelings about it that long. We just kind of get caught up in where's all the good protest songs, or why is rock dead, or something like that. But It's really about, well, the connection to it and what it does for us, for our minds and for our physicality and for our shared time here on this rock.
Well, you talk about connections with, as Chuck mentioned, with...
Have we started the podcast?
We're
podcasting.
We're good. We just go.
We are in the...
We just go.
Right.
I press.
Will Dailey,
record.
We should save some of
We
this.
are currently in the
Here we
art of
go.
podcasting right now.
All right.
Everything we'll say, we will never say again. We are improvising.
Let's get to your point.
I'm trying to get to the point with it in the back of my mind as I speak.
All right.
The connection point was what I was trying to make, Chucky.
Don't call me Chucky, but go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that it's not just the quantity of the connections, right? It's strengthening what we have.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just about our relationships we have.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think the economy of the future, once we pass through all the changes that are happening or be happening for the next 10, 15 years, it's going to be the teachers, it's going to be the therapists, it's going to be the artists, it's going to be the job force that is about working with each other, not sitting behind a desk or sitting behind a machine.
Yeah.
And that's exciting.
I totally agree with you. The physical artifact, the art form of making that physical thing.
Mm-hmm.
The digital thing, we could have a big electronic pulse that wipes out all memory, right, of all of our computers, and the only thing that will be left is that those CDs, those the vinyl and everything. So I like that physical. I like that. That's much more of a connection for me.
You know how relieved and healthy it would be if all of that did happen? You know how we'd all feel all of a sudden? We'd feel probably pretty good if you didn't have that giant void that keeps getting full of stuff, which is the hard drive or the list of things to do, and it just all disappeared immediately. And then it's like, well, I got to reach out and talk to somebody now.
Or I got to go
can't.
see Will Dailey in concert.
Exactly.
I got to go see them play
Yeah.
in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm going to use my GPS to find the location where he's playing. Oh, no, you can't do that.
I'm working on a giant EMP, just so it's going to be
If I want to go see some drama, I have to go see people in person act it out. Yeah.
Yes.
We just put this thing together in the last 6 months called a concert cast, where Chris Trapper did this
Chris
at
Trapper
City Winery. And
Oh, yeah.
it seemed like a novel idea because we're recording a live podcast along with live music, and we have a Q&A and everything. It's fun. It goes to your point about how we've been recording music for 100 years or so, but this is the kind of thing that's been done for centuries, where it's the vaudeville days of just that engaged audience with the performer and the energy, and
The energy was
physically
amazing.
being there together with like 100 people.
Yeah.
When we talk about these concepts, I always circle back to the reality that, is there a balance? How much do we need Facebook? How much do we need the social media to bolster our platforms to be able to have success? When we get down to it, you have great songs. You can't take that away. That's not created by social media. But to what extent do we need that type of thing to help our art? Do we need it?
Well, at the end of that last 5 minutes we have of breathing air and thinking of everything we love, are any of us going to say, I just wish I responded more on Facebook?
Yeah, right, I know.
I just wish I binge watched the second season of The Wire. It was a great show. I wish I binge watched it. That's not gonna happen, you know. But what will happen is, like, I'm glad I learned how to play that instrument. I'm glad I wrote that book. I'm glad I loved. I'm glad I lost. I'm glad I took that trip. So in that, no, they're not important at all. We know social media isn't changing anyone's mind. It's putting people further into tribes. There's a reckoning coming with it to some degree. And there's no art that I discovered on social media. There's not a single artist I know of or like that I discovered on social media. The artists that I discovered, someone told me about. And in the telling of it, I absorbed their passion. Dropping the needle on it, pressing play in the car as we drove, and the night skies pouring in through the windows.
That's called being social with media.
Yeah, exactly.
Dropping the needle with a buddy.
I like that you're dropping the needle.
Well,
I'm all about vinyl.
Vinyl is about ritual. If I play you a song on the phone, a number of things can happen. If I drop the needle, that black circle is not going to send me a text message. It's not going to remind me of it's something I have to do. I'm committing to listening, which is so atrophied
Yes,
now.
commitment.
And it's a 22-minute commitment of listening to at least that side.
Yeah.
And if you're going to break that pact, you got to physically get up and lift the arm. And you are acknowledging that it's so important that I need to lift the arm.
It's funny.
We've talked about this so many times.
My
but-
son, He was almost 13 and my daughter's 10. And this morning we were playing It's Hard by The Who.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, my son, loves the song Eminence Front. He dropped the needle. All of a sudden he hears Eminence Front. And he was just blown away that this was coming from a record player. And it was funny because he took the album off after it was over. He picks it up like it's a specimen, like you cannot touch the inside or it will break or something. Yeah. And he's holding up the album with two hands. He's like, get the sleeve. He goes, I'm going to put it in right now. He was so serious.
Yeah,
beautiful.
I think he's ready for his first
great
record
moment.
That's beautiful.
But, it falls right into what you were saying. I read something where this latest album, it's just not something that you have playing over a conversation or in the background. It's something that you have to focus on.
You want that commitment.
You want that commitment.
Yeah.
Which I loved. I loved that because it falls right into that vinyl thing.
There's plenty of things you can listen to now that, the algorithm is going to feed you that sound beautiful and everything, but, it's fed to you to do this certain thing, or playlists that you put on, like easy listening while I cook or while I do my homework or whatever it is. So much is designed to placate us in a way right now sonically. That's the algorithm. That's the social media algorithm. That's the algorithm that Spotify and Apple are using. I work too hard, and I believe in the guys that I work with and everyone that I work with that make it what it is. I'd rather have you do what you go need to do. And this isn't for you, that's fine. And find the people who need it. And what I do is I print 1,000 vinyls for each record. Mm-hmm. Vinyl's like my measuring stick. And we push downloads and streams and all that stuff and sell CDs. But
you have to diversify and all that.
But the vinyl tells me what's really going on. Like, how many people am I connecting with night to night? You just want to sell at least 2 per 50 to 100 people in the room, and it tells you the kind of person who's buying it from you. People just don't drop $20 on a giant square with a circle inside of it.
Those people are most likely, whether they're buying it at the show or not, you can go out on a limb, I think, and say that they're the people that appreciate the live experience.
Yeah. And this record, I just made it. I sequenced it. I put the gaps a certain way and made it so this thing you participate in or not.
Was that a conscious decision for this album specifically, or is that something that you kind of try and do for?
I didn't know this in the beginning, but I was never, and I got on labels, and I've had a really cool and exciting career, and it's also a kind of career that could end in 3 months, depending on how this record does, and it's always kind of been that way. But I found out early on, I wasn't indie enough for the indie crowd. I wasn't folk enough through and through for the folk, rock for rock, or male singer-songwriter, which, if you're called by your name on your records, is pretty much where you're put first. And I would go out. I'll be put out with an indie band. I'll be put out with this band. And I could go play with a jam band, and I could hang with all the different crowds. But at the end, when you're being marketed and you're being put in a bin or on a playlist, it was always an argument when I was on labels and a discussion. And I found out earlier, coming up in the 80s, 90s, aughts and all that stuff, and the music that came from me from coming from divorce and having 2 loving households after divorce, there's so much music being thrusted upon me, and I didn't find anything wrong with any of it. So in the writing of music, there's so much language to mine. I wasn't going to then pick a genre for marketing, which isn't an unwise thing to do. I found out once I was in the middle of it that you pick a genre and you can then go play the jam circuit or go do the folk circuit or be in these certain magazines, these certain blogs,
There's a path of least resistance that can be comforting to be in a bucket or a bin, like you said.
Well, even for the listener,
and
too.
I don't even, and I don't even, exactly, and I don't mean it to mean it in a negative light because...
Well, it can be very positive.
Absolutely.
It depends on what you're aiming to do, I think. But the fact that you've been sort of a Venn diagram with 5 different genres is, I think, probably a fantastic thing creatively, because you kind of raise an eyebrow and you're not trying to figure out what this fits into. Mm-hmm. You're just saying, well, I dig this song.
Mm-hmm. When I started listening, it's an automatic thing. You just kind of, it's not like I tried to think of where I could place you. It was that because each song was so different, that subconscious that would place you couldn't. And then it said, hey, Chuck.
Did you get frustrated?
Well, no, it was just something.
Did you slap yourself in the face like that?
That was in my head.
Oh, okay.
But it kind of snapped something in me that said that I can't. What's the next song going to be now? Because the other 3 songs were totally different from each other. Because I couldn't place you into that singer-songwriter or rocker, that it was something that affected me. which was interesting because it wasn't like a conscious thing until I noticed that it couldn't play through into that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It does make sense, Chuck, and I think that.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate your
support. I think that it's okay, and I think you're going to be fine.
Well, I don't know about that.
And I think when the next song comes up, it'll be a nice surprise, and you're going to do fine going through that album.
I'll just hold somebody's hand and I'll be okay.
I do think that with National Throat versus Golden Walker, there's a change in maybe the production or the way your voice sounds or something. There's something where if I do Spotify and I hear the different songs come on, I can probably close my eyes and figure out which album it came from.
Yeah.
So I love that.
That's usually the hope.
Listen,
that's usually the goal.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, it's hard from The Who. You know it came from that album and not Magic Bus.
Right.
It's pretty clear that you're committing to that experience, whether it's with an album with a needle or if you're in the car and it's on MP3. It's the experience. Those songs really do that to me.
Cause I wanna sing your song. Oh, he better be alive. Tomorrow's watching on my phone as your trigger shakes. He better be alive. I don't think you're certain. You know what you're hurting. Who or why with his arms aloft, clawing toward a sympathetic side. You better be alive. You better be alive. You better be alive. You better be alive.
Are you still sort of dabbling with movies and TV, or?
Like when I got my first kick up in the business, this is like 2005. You know, I put out my first record by myself. I made it with 16-track analog. I put that out. I was playing in bands for the longest time. I didn't mean to go out as Will Dailey, and then I put that record out, and it got on, I think, XM Unsigned at the time. I met with every record label out there. I mean, people were flying up to Boston from Sony, and I didn't even know what to make of it. Right at that time, everything started to crumble. That's when the whole kingdom was starting to fall. I remember being at the top of Capitol Records, and 2 weeks later, that guy was fired, the president.
Crumble globally.
Yeah, so I got to the party when the booze was gone.
Right.
And you had the vibe of, wow, this is going to be a big party with your own success.
Well, yeah, kind of from growing up, that's what happens. Like, when these calls started happening, and there's still the infrastructure where everyone's telling you and promising you all these things and all these narratives that everyone got accustomed to and thought that that's how you divide music. And music is made up of these small group of people that really do it. Anyway, so everything started to crumble, and I ran out of money, and then I kind of like gave everything the middle finger and came home to Boston, and so I got an indie deal that was just like an investment deal where they don't give you money. They say, we have this budget to kind of build you up, make a record, and then try to sell that record. I made this record called Backflipping Forward. My friend Tom Polche, who's a producer out in Los Angeles, who is from Boston, we made it here in Boston at a studio called Q Division. Mm-hmm. As he's pressing record, he's like, my buddy is starting up CBS Records. They found out no one was using the name, so they're going to start a small division with like 3 people running CBS Records. They want to hear what you're doing. I was like, man, I've been to every meeting. It's been like 2 years of this stuff. I'm over it. I just want to make a good record. And then I was signed to CBS Records 3 months later. So there's always been this kind of organic thing. If I make it, something cool happens. So I got CBS Records, and TV and film happened. But then I just noticed, wow, man, everyone's just kind of staying at home and trying to write songs to get on TV and film. And that market got saturated. I was like, I don't even want to, that's not why I'm at the playground, So I just kind of left that, and CBS closed down and sold me to Universal. Again, organically. It seemed like it was a cool thing. I had to always get a lawyer for these deals, Yeah. And I got to Universal, and I remember my first meeting with this record exec. But I remember this is my first meeting. I think, oh my God, the head of the whole label is coming to the meeting. This is so weird that this is happening. And he said, one rule, I don't want you ever complaining about how many Twitter followers you have. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's your biggest concern right now?
Was that ever even the pop in your head question for you?
You're like, what's Twitter?
No, not at all. But immediately I was just so, it was like an alarm went off. Yeah. Because they were also going through that whole infrastructure crumbling around them, and guys getting shoved around, and people getting fired, and people panicking and not knowing what to do, afraid to make decisions because they might lose their job next. And I just felt myself, I had like a 5-record deal, and I just felt myself, I saw like 5 to 10 years of my life wasting away with nothing ever really coming out, and I'm stuck in a deal. I had worked with T-Bone Burnett at this time. I was close with Dylan's publicist. John Mellencamp had hooked me up with a bunch of stuff. I had John Mellencamp's manager. I was in the shadow of all these people, and I knew I kind of had their leverage on my side.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't want to upset them. I just said,
So were they helpful advisors for you? I mean, you were young, right?
I
This was like in the
I learned. I
mid-twenties,
mean,
or-
I had this guy named classic rock and roll manager, a guy named Randy Hoffman, who's worked with so many people. I learned so much from him.
I bet.
And there's a kind of knowledge that he has that's not getting passed down, because when the industry split and crumbled, these new modes started being developed, and these old modes, the gold from them wasn't passed on, the knowledge wasn't passed on to either to scrap or to mold into this new way of doing things. So I still have all that knowledge from Randy and so many other people I've worked with over the years. But at the same time, he just said, "Well, if you want off Universal, I can't be your manager anymore, because I wouldn't know what to do with an indie artist," which I understand him saying that. And so I just said, I need to get off this deal. And I wrote this letter. I said, someone else should have my spot. There's all these hoops you want me to jump through now and all these things to do. And I don't like these hoops. I can't thrive like this. I'm not the artist for this kind of thing. But someone else is, and they should have this. And you guys shouldn't be wasting money on me. You should be spending money on them.
Wasn't it Bonnie Hayes who actually did an entire album and it never got released, and she can't even get it? She can't even...
Yeah.
Can you imagine putting
a lot
a-
of credit? That's
doing
one of
an album
probably
and then
thousands of
it's
examples.
Not, you don't even own it anymore. That's
I
it.
bought I own all mine except for one, and the one is the one that kind of got all messed up by them. So I let it go. It's
And
fine.
that's just the worst.
I
thing
own
that
the
could ever-
songs. I just don't own the recordings.
You're doing a Fenway rooftop sessions.
Yeah.
Where is it at Fenway? That sounds awesome.
It's right on the roof deck.
Oh, it's
no,
right-
it's behind home plate.
behind home plate.
You've never seen it before. It's like this secret garden.
Ah,
It's a secret garden
behind
in
home
Fenway.
plate. So how is the stage?
I
set
can't
up?
tell you any
can't-
more than that unless you
yeah, you
come.
have to
It's
go.
the secret garden. It's a Vineyard Vines Club. There's
Uh-huh.
actual produce and rock and roll.
Oh, produce.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen the garden on the
yeah,
third
yeah,
base
yeah.
side. They have the granite garden.
I love it.
Come to the park early. Go to this special secret garden and get a 45-minute set from me and my band.
Yeah.
And then go to a Red Sox game. It's a
right.
new thing. So I tested it last year
I
for
love
them. Sam Kennedy saw me play a couple years ago. He's like, I want to do something cool. So we walked around Fenway one day, and I was like, well, we could have concerts up here, and they could be before the game. So I love playing in places that are unique.
Yeah.
Like I played Isabella Stewart Garden Museum a couple years ago at the
Yeah.
Calderwood. I loved it there.
I've never been to one of the concerts, but Hot Stove Cool
Yeah.
Music is something I wanted to talk about. And so when you talk about baseball and music, there really is, I think, some of that connection. I just recently was reading this article, an ESPN article. It was talking about how baseball, and there's members of the team that actually are considered the DJs for the team, and they have this music that they'll play in the locker room to get pumped up for a big game,
Yeah.
or the celebration music. So there's like that direct music in baseball
Mhm.
concept, and also, of course, when Josh Cantor and others
Yeah.
are playing, those.
He was in my band for the album release for Golden Walker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, but then there's this other thing that's the charity work, and it's the concept of bringing great institutions together.
Yeah.
And you've been involved in Foundation to be named later
Yep.
for a
Which
few
is-
years
yeah.
now.
Peter Gammons and Theo Epstein and Paul Epstein.
How did you
Yes.
get
I'm
involved
gonna
in
be-
that whole thing?
I was asked years ago by Ed Velasquez, who's like the governor of Boston rock and roll. He's the manager at Q Division. He plays bass with me often.
Mm-hmm.
He asked me one year, they had me as a guest. I just got up and did 2 songs, and I got to play guitar and Letters to Cleo. And it just kind of went from there, and I just kept doing it. What's beautiful about Foundation to be named later is, we raise all this money, and instead of saying, okay, it's going to this thing every year, that's where we hang our hat, we look around and we see what's going on in Chicago or Boston that
Right.
needs shoring up. Like, what is working that just needs that extra 10, 20 grand this year? And
That's the
great because-
foundation to be named later.
Yeah, and
I get it now.
There's
That's
so
cool.
many things. Yeah, there's so many entities out there that are doing such great work. The charity world and the philanthropy world can kind of get insular, and And
for one cause.
Yeah, for one cause.
Yeah.
And
cancer is such an important thing to give to, but you can't have all
Mhm.
our organizations giving to cancer research.
Yeah.
You have so many things out there.
Yeah.
And the foundation has, I think 8 things in Boston and 8 things in Chicago.
Yeah.
If you go to the website, it's pretty novel where all of that money is one. I don't know how they, someone is the genius behind where it goes, how it goes.
but even like the artists, so all the artists pay, I'd be like, all right, I want Zoomix. I get to like pick like
Oh, you can pick.
$1,500. But for me, there's another like $1,500 to $3,000. I can be like, I want this given to something else.
That's cool.
too.
So you can direct that a little bit.
Yeah, played with Eddie Vedder a bunch from it, and then
In Chicago or Boston or
both. Yeah, I played
Yeah.
with Vedder. I've been his backup singer and rhythm guitarist for 3 shows, I think. Yeah, 3. Yeah, I mean, he's just an amazing guy, and that's who I grew up wanting to be.
How was that? The fact that you were
the first time it was
in the early 90s, you
Yeah.
alluded to that before. You had 2 households, right?
Yeah. I think my older cousins that were in college, older cousin, he was probably out of college by then, but he was one who always gave me like Stones and Zeppelin and Who records.
Yeah.
So for that band, particularly around that time, you have to remember how powerful MTV was. And for an act, the biggest act in the world, to then say, we're not making videos anymore, was mind-blowing. It meant that the music was more important to them than the marketing. It wasn't the purest way to spend your life and your art.
They were mentors.
That was like letting go of power.
I almost
Let
wonder
go
if
of
that's
power.
why they ended up doing a lot of the videos of just them live.
Absolutely.
Which
Yeah.
that's my favorite kind of video
Yeah.
anyways.
I remember during, I don't know, maybe it was late 90s or something, when they were on a real mission to make the ticket prices lower, and that was the first of many bands. And they got to a level that I think they could do that. They really affected a lot of other people. And it sounds like they were big mentors for part of your career.
Absolutely.
And some of the stuff that you've learned from the...
Even just in
from
playing
them.
with them now too, there's so many weird things of nights hanging out now, and so I've gone with like to Mexico City now to hang with them, watch them, and went to the last shows at Wrigley on their last tour, and ended up playing music all night. And it's like I'm still learning. And it's
You're pinching
great.
yourself less, but learning more.
yeah. I mean, it's easier when you're playing music because then you're doing the thing that you're supposed to do, and then it's afterwards. I'm like, wait, what? And but I remember the first time it was Jimmy Chamberlain on drums, I think, the first time, or Dax Nelson from Cheap Trick. It was in Chicago when I played my set. I had John from Wilco in my band. I had all this. It was already like a lot going on, and then I got up and played 5 songs with Ed.
He's coming, by the way, John Surratt.
He is?
He's Autumn Defense is playing at Lizard Lounge.
Oh, nice.
I already got tickets.
You harmonize with those guys, and obviously Ed.
Figuratively and literally, yeah.
Well, right. And I was talking about literally just then.
Well, yeah.
But-
Afterwards, I remember being in the green room and everyone's just crowding for pictures. Like everyone waited for that picture moment. And I was just like, I have a hard time with social media and pictures and all that stuff and posting stuff. I usually have to wait months until it's over. Kind of like Native Americans and like their photo being taken. It takes part of the spirit. If I share something too quickly, it might take part of the memory.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand that
you
right
can
now. I
share
don't
it
know.
really quickly now.
I just kind of walked out of the room while I was taking pictures, and about a half hour later, Ed comes out and has a beer, and he's like, "That was a good show." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So now we're just talking like you do with anybody after you play a set. And I go out. Well, I hadn't said anything because I just played it cool. And I go, "Yeah, man, I got to tell you just directly what tonight means to me. I know you know how I feel because you played with Pete Townsend for the first time one night. You know how I feel tonight." Then we were done, and I didn't need to say anymore.
Those are my favorite moments for someone of that caliber, being approached by a fan or a fellow musician who looked up to that person. The gratitude that they show to that person really tells me who that person is.
Mm-hmm.
If they're dismissive, I'm like, well, that guy's a piece of crap now to me. I don't get that at all. As a matter of fact, did you see that video with Paul McCartney getting
James Corden.
James Corden. He gets,
Yes.
yeah.
So talk about committing 20 minutes. Everyone listening to this should commit 23 minutes
I love
to
that.
that.
I
It
love that.
Paul
fantastic.
McCartney.
And he
It's
James
emotional.
Corden.
Emotional.
He got emotional, right?
I
And
was
so
emotional.
did all the people around.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney couldn't have been more cool about it, and just genuinely pleased with what was going on and thankful, and
Yeah.
he was excited about every moment of it too. Going
Yeah.
into the barbershop and
Wait, speaking of iconic singers, I wanted to bring something up with you, Will, that Up to Your Heart.
Up to your toes, I cuss there. Twist and shout, yeah, I count on the truth to shut your mouth. Still,
loved how it had different parts that connected to each other. You have a lot of songs that don't have verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus.
Yeah.
You do it well in a nice sensibility that it's not too contrived, where you have these different parts that flow into each other. You really don't expect some of the connections of those parts. But then when you hear it again and again, you expect it. That's the beauty of it. And also, it reminded me of Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Did anybody ever say that?
Yeah, I think
About
that
that
one
song?
Well, yeah, I think that one has it's like a psychedelic Tom Petty song, or if it's like a little
Your
it's
voice kind
angular.
of sounded like him too.
Yeah.
It doesn't always. I don't listen to your voice and say, "Oh, that sounds like Tom Petty."
The thing about vocabulary and pluralism and stuff like that, and these things that are at mine or our disposal when we're making things, is there's so many things to try on if you can do it. Like there's so many more ways to experience the game if you can play outfield in infield, and if you can hit. And wouldn't you want to be under the lights playing all those corners and seeing what it's like?
Huh.
It goes without saying that Tom Petty's an influence. So I hope there's something of my affection towards him that's in me that can be accessed when I need it to express myself.
My favorite song is off of National Throat, Castle of Pretending.
Yeah.
Guitar thing for me. It's that repetitive
there's a lot of guitar in that song.
That goes along with different sections of chords. I don't know how to explain it. That's the one I listened to like 7 or 8 times before I came over here.
It's a thread that, I've seen you play that in your guitar playing.
What?
You play a certain riff that can be within the C minor, within the C, within the G.
Really?
And it's the same riff that goes through.
Yeah, cool. I didn't know I did that.
I saw it once.
You saw it once? Yeah. Well, I also wanted to ask you, and this, I'm not sure how big a part of this you were, but I saw it in your wiki. By the way, the wiki, your wiki, have you looked at your wiki? It says...
It changes, says, and I'm like, who is changing this?
Yeah. Well, it says Will Dailey, and in parentheses, born 1976 or 77.
We don't know yet.
They're not sure.
Yeah.
So, Chris Trappers was wrong too. It made him younger.
Well, that's
he's like, I wasn't born in 71. I was born in 67, man.
Well, first is getting it wrong. Then there's just like kind of throwing on a couple dates. Yeah. He was like, well, within these 5 years, he was born.
Listen, anyway, no one really knows.
That was funny. Yeah. But also, it said you were part of the Ghost Brothers of Darkland.
Yeah.
How involved were you with that, with Stephen King and John Mellencamp? I'd never heard of it, and I wish I'd seen it. First of all, the story sounds crazy. Eerie,
I was pretty involved.
Yeah,
I mean, I got to spend 2 weeks in the studio with Sheryl Crow, Roseanne Cash, Taj Mahal, Elvis Costello, T-Bone Burnett, Mark Ribot, who's probably one of my top 5 favorite guitarists of all time, and I got to ask him about one of my favorite Tom Waits tunes, and it was just an education. I was like, this is a coup. And like, I just hope no one asked me to get them coffee. Because every studio has a runner, like that, and I was like, someone's gonna ask her to get them coffee,
and I'm gonna have to get it.
I was with Jacob Dylan, and I was a huge Jacob Dylan fan, and something about him I loved, and I kept blowing it. Like, I finally made up with him like last year. Like, not that anything bad happened, like I didn't get to be like,
Yeah.
I think you're cool, or in the right way, you know. But it's actually he
touch
heard
of
Sunken Ship and then came to me about it. So then I got to then be like, okay, so I think you're really cool.
You guys have.
And I'm like, I blew it. I remember I was playing Farm Aid once, and I blew it. And I blew it on the Ghostland sessions.
But the Ghostland, not Ghostland. What were we talking about? What's the
Ghostland-
musical?
Yeah, it's me. Ghostland.
That was a musical
Ghost
run
Brothers
for a
of
while.
Dark.
That Stephen King and John Mellencamp wrote. And so at the time, I just started getting managed by Mellencamp's manager. And
Yeah.
Mellencamp, who is like the most unapproachable guy and like really crotchety and tough, he's done more for me, I think, than anybody. And I go up to say thanks, be like, yeah.
Yeah.
He at that point, you know, when I was just trying to get like a leg up somewhere, he threw me a couple bones, Farm Aid and Ghostland. And then when Ghostland went to Broadway, he's like, I really want Will Dailey to audition. I was like, oh, okay, I can't tell John Mellencamp I really don't want to be on Broadway, but okay, I'll go.
So you
Because
auditioned?
I'll try anything once.
Oh, you know, John Mellencamp tells you to audition. You
Right,
just
and I'm a
audition.
songwriter, so it's like, all I know is I'm alive this one time, and if I'm stuck in a genre, or I'm stuck in my own ego of life, and like I'm just a musician, I don't need to do anything but play my guitar,
Right.
and not go out and audition for something on Broadway, what that experience might lead to as far as experiencing life.
No, you've shown that you've done many other things like that.
Yeah,
You
so-
learn, and some are very successful. Some teach
Right.
you other things.
Exactly, so I
Yeah.
try them all once.
Well, it's funny that you bring this up because
You want me to audition for Broadway?
No,
for the
I had-
musical of podcast.
Chuck had an audition.
I had an audition on Friday. You know Joyce Cole Haywick?
Underwear
Yes.
commercial.
So we talked to Joyce Cole Haywick. It was one of our episodes, and I used to be an actor. Ron, I don't know if you knew that, but so she
Wait,
found out.
Are you acting when you say you like Castle Pretending?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm a bad actor.
Okay. You
So
pretend-
you would have
okay.
seen
All
right.
right.
You would have
All
seen
right.
right through it. Anyway, she sent me this. It was a casting call. They're looking for Boston podcasters who talk to musicians, and she's like, "I think this is kind of right up your alley." And so I auditioned for it.
It's so funny though, because it's not like an actor needs to do that. It's like that's what you are.
I'm like, this is what I do for a living. So
It's like reality TV.
We're looking for someone to play Will Dailey in a biopic about Will Dailey. Will you do it?
and then like, yeah, and
He's
it would
gotta
be
look
like
a
if
lot
they
like
said to
Will
you,
Dailey.
you know, you're just not the Will Dailey we're looking for, you know. So that's I'm
I
a
like
little.
that. That's a good little movie.
I'm a little concerned that they're going to be like, yeah, we're not buying. This is your life. This is what you do for a living. But anyway, so I just auditioned for that on Friday.
very cool.
And I realized now I left acting and I don't do it anymore. But did you enjoy the experience?
Oh yeah, I mean it was.
Did you act? Did you audition for John Mellencamp and Stephen King? Or was
No,
it
I
like-
got the gig. I got the gig, and no, I auditioned on Broadway for like one of the biggest casting directors. It went great, actually. It went very well. I got called again for 3 more after that. I got called for Dirty Dancing. I said no. I've been called for things because I've appeared on TV and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
think once you've appeared on TV, you get put in like your height, what your
Yeah,
abilities
right.
are, and all this stuff.
Get
so,
your IMBD thing.
yeah, and I've been called for The Voice 4 times. I keep saying,
really?
like, yeah, no,
What are you gonna do on The Voice?
exactly. What am I?
Well,
As-
you mean
as
to
a-
perform?
as a judge or
yeah,
performer?
to perform.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
perform. I mean, no, to be one
be
of the
judged.
contestants.
Oh, one of the
No,
contestants.
On The Voice? No, I'm not gonna be. I'm not.
Well, I'm glad
I
you're
mean,
not
Will's
going to
I
good,
do
would
it.
have given you guys a rider if I could be a judge on The Voice. My
I'm glad, but I'm
gosh.
glad you're not being a contestant either.
No, I wouldn't. I try to advise most friends who you want to go do it not to, unless it's just like, I don't really want to sing for the rest of my life. I want to have an experience like this.
Yeah.
I get it. But if you're a songwriter and they're using you for your narrative, like my career story is perfect for their narrative. It was like, oh, he's done this and he's done that. He just needs the voice now for the final.
Yeah, right.
The final thing he needs is the voice. And then when you're not, then the next you go try to do music the rest of your life, you're always introduced that byline. He
Right.
was on The Voice.
On The Voice.
She was on The Voice.
So when you do
It's
the
a
introduction to
machine.
you for this one, we'll say Will Dailey was not on The Voice.
Yep.
I'm glad you auditioned. That you're putting your money where your mouth is. You should experience it,
Yeah.
see what it's like, and you just never know what's going to lead you.
Wait a second. You toured? Weren't you with the production Ghosts?
No, I was in the studio recording of it. So like
the music
when
behind it.
I remember I was home after I did it, and doorbell rings, and it's just like a giant bouquet of flowers. And I read the card, and it says, "Thank you greatly, Stephen King." I went upstairs, showed my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and I was like, "We have flowers from Stephen King." We're like, just thought it was great. Framed the card, put the flowers up, went to bed. We're both lying in bed. We're like,
We're
"There's
gonna die."
flowers from Stephen King in the house. They're gonna come to life.
I know,
and
exactly.
choke
You're
us
gonna-
out."
We're gonna
eat your face
that
off.
delirious moment right before you fall asleep, and anything is possible in the world. Ask me more
What's
questions.
next for you besides the
Yes,
28th?
we get more questions.
I celebrate Golden Walker for at least another year and a half. I leave about 3 or 4 songs off every record I make, and I'm adding 1 or 2 on in August. with some live demos of the tunes. So I released it again then, and doing remixes for early winter, and then a giant version of the record early in 2019.
Really? That's kind of interesting.
Because I think if I'm talking to like other peers of mine who are doing the same struggle, I say, make sure you make something that you can love for a long time. Even when it's painful, like you usually think you screwed the whole thing up when you're done. Just try to trick myself into loving it, and usually that comes from people listening to it and then giving me their feelings back, you know? And what people say about it fuels you. And hopefully no one just says it's good. People say really specific things about it. The goal is having someone say, I don't like this, or I love it, means this to me. Having a specific thing to say about it like you just did. We're in the tyranny of content. So you can't for 1 second assume that just because you put something out that's in this ubiquitous platform that everyone's going to hear it. You have to love the thing you made enough to find ways to celebrate it authentically over a period of time, because it's the tyranny of content.
The tyranny of content.
There's stuff all the time. You have a saved list on Netflix that you haven't gotten through. You can't even possibly get through the saved things in this lifetime that you now want to check out. So for me to try to make the connection with you, I'm going to have to be celebrating for a long time and not just assume like it didn't work because it didn't blow up day one. I mean, people need to understand music that is blowing up has money being spent on it, a lot. You know, I know pretty much until at least March of next year, it's just Golden Walker.
Isn't live the celebration?
Yeah, that's the way too. But if I have a Tom Waits cover and a song that I left off the record and three or four of the demos that are going to go on in August or September 7th, I think. That's just a way for me to hit those platforms, kind of waken the algorithm again as I'm going out to play live all fall.
Do you enjoy playing these new songs live?
I do. Some we have to figure out, like not figure out, just like get the muscle memory on. But then your muscle memory on them just evolves, and sometimes like I have the saxophone player playing with me the past couple of shows, and as much as I can, and because what I tend to do is make a record, I paint all over a canvas, and then I go out and be like, well, it is what it is live, and it's going to be what it is. And if it's me and a drummer or me and a trio, that's going to be the experience. The last two records, I went to Applehead Studios in upstate New York, spring the songs on the guys while we're there, kind of trap them. We sleep in the studio for 7 days, and we make the frame and stretch the canvas. And then there's, a sketch of it on there, and then I come home and go to Q Division and home and do all the slathering.
You talked about infinite tunnels.
I did?
You did. But you talked about songwriting as these different tunnels that you can take. A tunnel can go into different directions. You're digging, and you don't know where it's going. That song it comes from those different tunnels.
Yeah, I think maybe what I was talking about too is like we connect to something for its familiarity, and we love it for its surprises. A joke is funny because there's a pattern there that seems familiar, and then when you upset the pattern, it's funny. Songs that we don't change the dial on have something that's familiar to us, but that are surprising us at all times. I hate to break it, but we're all connected. Everything's connected. Everything's the same. We're all, I think people say we're all stardust, but it's true. We're all we're all the same thing, and understanding each other. And every word has been spoken and written, and every song has been sung, but not that way.
Not that way. And that's language.
Right.
Everything we're saying right now never was and never will be said.
And maybe there's a good reason for that. Okay, thanks for tuning in.
Especially if I can't find those files, then it's never been said.
Infinite Tunnels is going to be the name of the new band.
Infinite Tunnels?
I think they have a bigger font at Festival of the Farm. They're right up near Twiddle. Infinite Tunnels. You got a nice size font.
I did.
You're in the middle.
Is that a euphemism? What the hell is that?
I made it.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm psyched for that.
I got it.
Festival of the Farm.
Festival of the Farm in Boston, yeah.
Fam.
Festival of the Farm is going to be wicked awesome.
Wild time.
Wicked pisser at Festival at the Farm.
Remember us in jet streams, high in conversation, strangers in the sky. Who met on a delay, suddenly a red eye racing through the night. I told you about my love, who's ready like a harbor as soon as I arrive. Yes, it all gets real when the gear goes down, and it already would have not worked out by now. Over Minnesota, you asked to bar my shoulder, I smiled to oblige. In a sudden drop in pressure, I would have put your mask on before I put on mine. So why was I wishing that the tailwind was not on her side, when I know had we never touched the ground that it already would have not worked out by now. Still anytime I feel mistreated, I wonder what it'd be like if we stayed up in the sky, high, so high. Some thoughts fly, stand by, waiting in an alternate life, where we take that walk and we buy the house and we get the job and the baby crowns and the taxes break, and I drink too much and the bills pile up and the years roll out, and it already would have not worked out by now. Yes, it already would have not worked out by now. Well, it already would have not worked out by now.
Find out where Will is playing next and purchase as much vinyl as you can at willdailey.com. He will also be playing at Festival at the Farm in September, and you can learn more about that at festivalatthefarm.com. Go to abovethebasement.com. You can join us on Patreon, sign up for our newsletter, listen and subscribe to our podcast, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and look at all the nice pictures we post on Instagram. We are everywhere. On behalf of Ronnie and myself, thanks for listening. Tell your friends, and remember, Boston music, like its history, is unique. How would you like to join us in creating great conversations that inspire and connect? Patreon is a membership platform that provides a way for creators like us to build relationships and provide exclusive experiences to subscribers or patrons. We have been self-financed since we got off the ground in June of 2016, but in order to continue to fully invest all we can in each episode, we need your patronage. For more information, please go to patreon.com/abovethebasement.